Right, okay folks, welcome to this week's Friday Waffle. By the time you're watching this, well, obviously depending on when you're watching this, you might be watching this a year from now, in which case I have no idea what I'm actually doing. But if you're watching this on Friday, I will be on my way to Mulgai, or Milngavie, as some uneducated Scottish people pronounce it. On my way to Milgai, which is the start of the West Highland Way. Now, the West Highland Way it's an ancient route that starts in Mulgai and it finishes in Fort William, and it's 96 miles, depending on who you talk to. About 1980, I think it was, there were two guys decided to have a race along this 96 mile trail, and it grew arms and legs and it became the West Highland Way race. Now I've done it 4 times, finished it 3 times, and I pulled out 1 year. I have officially retired from running, though whether that stays like that I don't know. The thing about the West Highland Way, it's absolutely stunning. There is no other words to describe it. It is just mind-blowingly beautiful. Even in shit weather, it is beautiful. You've got Glencoe. I mean, you can't beat. There's nowhere in the world that beats the Highlands, as far as I'm concerned. It's one of these places where when you go, it kind of gets under your skin and you just want to go back. So this year, I decided to volunteer, because I've done it quite a few times, and I thought to myself, without volunteers, there is no race. Now, because it's along a 96 mile track, or trail I should say, I think there's an excess of 100 people who help, because you can imagine the undertaking. You know, there's about 200 people taking part in the race. Then you've got each of these 200 people have got a crew. So it's a lot of people, and it's a lot of, you've got 35 hours to finish it. So these marshals, they're out there for, 30 plus hours, and they're not getting a penny. They don't get any expenses or anything. So I thought to myself, I think although I've retired for running, I thought it's only fair that I give back. So I put my name down as a volunteer, thinking I was going to be manning one of the checkpoints, and then I got a phone call from the organizer to say, listen, we know you want to just volunteer, but we've got a couple of guys needing a support crew. So the long and short story is, myself and my mate Pete, we are going to be crewing for a guy who's Al Higgins. He's a phenomenal runner. If you know your ultra runs or ultra running races, he placed fourth in the Spartathon, which I believe is about 150 miles of trail in Greece. So he's not too shabby. So he is what you would deem at the sharp end of the race. The blunt end is where I usually run, that's the back of the race, but he'll be at the front. I don't think we had a call with Al on whatever day it was, and I don't think he thinks he's going to win it, because there's a couple of guys a wee bit younger than him. He seems to think it's going to be between the two guys. But this will be the first time I've crewed. I've crewed for how many people? I've crewed for. This will be my 3rd time crewing, so I should be an old hand at it. The race starts at 1 AM Saturday morning. It's basically, the race is always on the longest day of the year. So it starts at 1 AM, and by about 3 AM it's going to start getting lighter. Most of the runners will be coming up Connacht Hill, looking down over Loch Lomond to see the sunrise, and trust me, there is nowhere on earth more beautiful than the West Highland Way. I know I'm biased, but trust me, it's a beautiful place. So that's it. I'm going to be tied up there for the whole weekend. all going well, Al should finish. He'll probably finish kind of tea time on Saturday. And then what we plan to do is get back to the hotel. We've booked a hotel in Fort William Travelodge. Get a shower, get changed, get out, get a meal, have some beer, and then the following morning, Sunday morning, there's a presentation. I think it's 12:30 it starts, and then once we've watched that, we'll head back down the road. Which brings me on to point number 2 of my little brief notes. Prices. I'm 54, and I don't mind admitting I have never known inflation to affect people the way it's affecting us right now. It's actually got to the point it's ridiculous. It really is. Now, I'm very, very fortunate that I'm able to afford it. It just means I've got less money. I mean, I've probably mentioned it before. My gas and electricity was £92 a month. It was 76, then it went up to 92, and then on the 1st of April it went up to £199. So my energy bill, it more than doubled. So there's that. Food. Where do we start with food? It's it's one of these things. You go to the supermarket, you pick up what you have, what you need to buy, and you pay for it. And previously, you never, well, at least with myself, you really don't sort of pay too much attention. You know, it comes to 40 quid, you just contactless, 45 quid contactless. And you know what, it's only when you actually look at individual items, every single thing has gone up. The one thing that really stuck out for me is I do like my butter. I love dairy products, I love cheese, I love butter. My favourite butter is Lurpak. No, it's not Lurpak, what's it called? No, Lurpak's the silver one. Anyway, I can't remember, it's the yellow one. I can't remember, doesn't matter. It's excuse me, it's normally £3.50 for whatever it's called, a tub, and every couple of weeks Morrison's, they do a special on it. It goes from £3.50 down to £2.75, so I usually buy two for £2.75, or two for £2.75 each. And in the last 3-4 weeks it has gone from £3.50 to £4. Now that is, what is that? That's a 50% increase. Crisps, my daughter loves Discos. 2 months ago they were £1, they're now £1.25. Everything has gone up, and it's not just gone up 2%, 3%, it's going up like 25%. Now in my last job, I got just before I left actually, so I never really got the benefit. I got a 4.2% pay rise, which is the biggest pay rise I've had for a long time. And I thought to myself, that's pretty good, that's actually really good. And then when you sit and work out the price of stuff, things have gone up by 25%. So a 4% increase, you're still 21% less worse off. Then the next biggie, obviously after the energy prices, is petrol. About 3 years ago, I'm trying to think, I reckon about 4 years ago, I remember spending, I think it was about £1.03 for a litre of unleaded. 103. I filled up tonight, and I've got an app that tells you what the cheapest fuel is. I filled up tonight and it was £1.87. There's a petrol station about 10 minutes from my house, and they're charging for diesel, they're charging £2.02. Apparently it went up 4.5p overnight. And you know what, it's diabolical, absolutely diabolical. Like I says, I can afford it. You know, it just means, you know, my extra £100 on my energy bill my 25%, it just means that I've got probably £300 a month less to spend on shite. And I'm not massively well paid. But the people that I really feel sorry for are families that are maybe on low income, maybe on the minimum wage, maybe got 2, 3 kids. I feel for people that are having to drive any distance because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, I really try and avoid politics. I never get into politics, but I'm convinced. I believe for every pound that you spend on petrol or diesel, about 50% of that, 50 pence of that, is tax. So if you put £100 in, about £50 of that is going to the government for tax. I'm convinced that this is the government's attempt to try and claw back the money that they've spent on COVID, that they've spent on track and trace, that they've spent on furlough. I mean, you must be talking trillions and trillions of pounds. Somebody's got to pay for that, and I think the government are just hammering us for every penny we can. Now, what really irks me, and like I said, I don't really do politics. I never really get involved in politics, to the point, and I know some people will say that's terrible, that I've actually not voted sometimes. And the simple reason is I don't really care, because there's really nobody that's ever been good to me as far as politics go. So I'm really neither here nor there. I know people say you should vote, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I have voted. I mean, I voted for independence, and that never happened. But the thing that really, really pisses me off is the government are hammering us stupid with essentials, things that you've got no control over. You need to have gas and electricity, unless you want to sit in the dark with no heating. In case of myself, I need a car. I need a car for my work. I've got to go to site. I need a car. If I want to go and see my girlfriend, I need to get a car. Public transport is shit. Public transport prices have gone through the roof as well. And then food. Unfortunately, I need to eat, and I need to buy food. And I mean, I really don't. I'm not a luxury person. I don't go over the top with stuff. So the government have kind of hit us in 3 places: petrol, food, and heating and electricity. And at the end of the day, you've just got to like it or lump it. Simple as that. And in the case of most people, they're going to have to lump it. So if the government decided to put petrol from £2 a litre up to £3 a litre, I've got no choice in the matter. I'm still going to have to pay that, which is just absolutely diabolical. So yeah, that's prices. This week, what have I been doing? Video wise, did the Watch with Me Meister. I really enjoy that. I think I get quite a good turnout for that. I think other people enjoy it. I have to say though, the computer program that we're watching over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've watched that. There's 10 episodes. I've watched them a few times. I can't actually remember it being as dry. I mean, it was very, very loosely based on computers. I mean, it was good fun. We were all kind of having a laugh and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a dry program. And we watched an episode of Starcade. So I'm planning to. That's you'll be delighted to know the computer program is now finished. Next week I'm planning to start watching some Micro Live, probably continue to watch some Starcades as well. So that's great fun. I do enjoy that. I know I keep saying I want to kind of cut down in the live streams. You'll probably notice I have been putting out a few more videos. I want to get back to kind of making videos. Obviously, starting a new job, coupled with Cook Soul and that kind of stuff, it's been difficult trying to find the time to make videos, but I have managed to make a few, and hopefully you're enjoying them. But no, the Watch With Me Meister thing's good fun. It's it's your opportunity to watch some old programs, and I try and be amusing and entertaining, failing most of the time. But yeah, that's good. This week I was at the computer club. It's every Tuesday, not every Tuesday, it's one Tuesday per month. Good turnout. Yeah, it's the regulars. We've got about 6 or 7 regulars. I took along, it was completely non-retro. I took along a laptop and a large TV, and I've got Coinox, which is a fantastic collection of games. I had that on a little USB drive plugged into the laptop. It was great. It meant we had tons of games, we had all arcade stuff, consoles, really good. But yeah, a bit kind of lacking on the old sort of retro front, taking a modern laptop. What else was there? There was a Mega Drive. There was not a 3DO. There was what the hell is it called again? Oh, I've just forgotten. It was a DVD player. I can't remember. I've completely forgotten. It was a DVD player, or did it play CDs? I think it was CDs it played. I can't remember what it was called. It's not the Amiga 30 CD32. I can't remember what it's called. It flopped massively, and most of the games were completely pish. What else was there? There were a couple of homemade pinball games. There was a homemade little arcade, and one of the guys took along a Mister as well. So the Mister, still looking for one. I don't know what the availability is at the moment. A few months ago you simply couldn't get them at all. I believe they're becoming, I don't know, I think they're becoming slightly more available, but again, just what we're talking about, everything is absolutely shot up in price. So I fully expect to probably be paying about an extra third or a quarter on top of what it was going to be to begin with. So if anyone knows where I can get a Mister, I'm wanting one that's just kind of pre-built, preferably. Please let me know. I do want to get one. Just talking of that, you probably remember the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is a handheld. Basically, it's a super powerful PC in a handheld. You can plug it into TV, so it's a fully functional TV, fully functional handheld. You can run Windows on it. I think it runs Linux as well. Was it last year? I think it was. They announced 3 different versions. I think they're all the same regards power. I think the only difference is the size of the hard drive. I think it's SSD. I'm not 100% sure. So there was the 3 price points. Now I'm positive I put a £5 deposit down for the most expensive one. I can't remember what size it was, 512 gig or something. I put down a £5 deposit last year, and I have not heard anything. Is that out? Is it a thing? Can you buy them? I don't know. I've seen a few people making videos, but is the Steam Deck actually out? And why have I not heard anything? I put a £5 deposit down. Would I buy one for, I think they're 500 quid? Nah, not a chance. A, I can't afford it, and B, I think it's not something I need. It really isn't something that I need at all. So yeah, if you know, is the Steam Deck a thing? Is it out? Has anybody else pre-ordered one? Have you heard anything? And secondly, if the Mister is indeed available, or if you happen to be selling one, give me a shout. That would be excellent. So that's kind of been this week. Like I says, when you're watching this, I should be up north, probably getting attacked with midges. Right, listen, the last 3 weeks I've not answered any questions. Apologies for that, because I did a live stream, or it wasn't a live stream, it was a recording with Panther and Del Boy, and we just talked bollocks basically. We didn't do any questions. And then last week, the week before, I just talked. I think I spoke about piracy, and then last week I just spoke about the different timelines. 8-bit, 16-bit consoles. How did it affect me? How excited was I when each one came out? So I kind of feel that does work, because it it just gives me something to kind of get my teeth into. And once I start talking, I can just talk and talk and talk and talk. So hopefully, let me know what you think. Do you like the videos, the waffles, where I'm talking about a particular thing, just reminiscing about a particular thing, or do you prefer the questions? So, like I says, this week I've not got anything in particular to talk about. I'm just going to go through and answer the questions, because I do appreciate the fact that you guys take time to ask questions, and there's nothing more annoying than asking somebody a question and then they just blank it and it's not been deliberate. Trust me in that. I do appreciate you guys taking time to ask me questions. So what I've done, and I'm really clever and organised tonight, I've just stuck them onto a Word document. Yeah, last week I was talking about the shows, the fairground, arcades and that kind of stuff. One switch is saying Southend-on-Sea's Golden Mile was a business throughout the golden age of arcades, and we had Canvey Island a bit further upriver. I always thought Canvey Island was like where Jaws was. What was that again? It began with a C, not Canvey Island. I can't remember, something like that. You know, as a child living in central Scotland with no water nearby, well, we had the River Forth, I suppose. It always seemed really exotic and exciting. Southend-on-Sea. When you say that, I picture people with knitted hankies on their head, lying in deck chairs, trousers rolled up to the knees, going into the water. Southend-on-Sea. You can just picture. You can picture postcards. Who remembers postcards? I always remember, my granny used to go to Blackpool, or she'd go to Scarborough, and you would get the postcard, and it always had a photograph of like an open air swimming pool, the beach, and they always enhanced the blue, so the sky was like bright blue. Yeah, people just don't do postcards anymore. But yeah, when Southend-on-Sea, it just conjures up images of arcades and ice cream and donkey rides and I don't know, blissful British holidays. Really good. Mr. Gary Lockhart, how are you, Gary? Blackpool arcades, many hours spent over the last 45 odd years playing in the Vegas of the North, aka shithole. Amusement arcades. You name it, they had it, and in multiple venues. Interesting, your timeline in various machines. I had played on several second-hand consoles over the years, but my wow factor was gaming on my first PC in 2003. Yes, very late to the party. That's when my lifelong love affair of Far Cry, Splinter Cell and Hitman started. The PC was a Fujitsu Siemens bought through the government home PC scheme. Don't remember that, Gary. I upgraded the memory, graphics card, etc. to the point I couldn't do any more to enhance it. Then and only then did I buy an Xbox 360, of course. I had to buy all the above games and all future sequels in that format. Another great waffle, Alan, hugely enjoyable, and yes, you're missed too. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you very much, Gary. Nice. I'm absolutely made up that you're coming onto my channel. It's great to hear from you, because that's what happens. You leave a job and then you lose contact with people. So it's great that you're taking part in it. And by the way, Gary, if you fancy, we're going to be organising a trip to Arcade Club in Blackpool. Probably, I reckon it's probably going to be September. You're more than welcome to come. Let me know. You've got my phone number anyway, but let me know. Put a wee comment down below. Let me know if you fancy going. You're more than welcome to come along. I'm sure we'll get 3 or 4 of us anyway to head down from Scotland, go down to Blackpool. So give me a shout. You're mentioning about the 360. I must admit, like yourself, I was always trying to kind of keep my PC up to date so it'd run the latest games. You always wanted to bang it onto the maximum resolution. And the point where I decided, excuse me, I did take my daughter to McDonald's and I just got myself a coffee. The point that I decided to give up on the old upgrade your PC malarkey was I had bought I can't even remember what it was. I've no idea what the card was. It's a graphics card, and it cost me, I think it was about 250 quid, which at that point was a lot of money for a graphics card. I mean, I know now you can spend £1,500 upwards for a graphics card, especially with that bloody Bitcoin nonsense. All these miners buying them up to mine their Bitcoins. I bought this card, and it was like the top of the range for about 5 seconds. I remember reading a magazine, a PC magazine, and they reviewed my card, and this was about 6 months after buying it, and it was classed as an adequate starter graphics card. I think it was classed as a budget card. And I'm like, I've just spent 200, 300 quid on this, and already it's kind of defunct. So that was the point. I just thought, bollocks to this, because the problem is you weren't just upgrading your graphics card, you were having to put in a bigger power supply and more memory and all that kind of shite. So yeah, that was the point where I just decided, Amity Island, there you go, Jaws, Amity, Canvey Island, that still does sound kind of very Miami, doesn't it? Amity Island, there we are. Yeah, that when the Xbox 360 came out, that's when I decided, because at that point the Xbox 360 was kind of doing the same graphics that your PC was doing, but the great thing was you didn't have to piss about and upgrade it. It just worked. You know, the games were fine tuned to running it. The only problem with the Xbox 360 was I think I had, and I shit you not, I think I had 5. It was either 4 or 5 Xboxes 360s. Now, like me now, I rarely played it, hardly played it, and I went through that many Xboxes, and they were hardly used. All the red ring of death. But yeah, the Xbox 360 to me was a game changer. It brought PC standard games to the consoles. You could play it on your big TV. You didn't have to piss about with graphics cards and what have you. You just put your disc in and away you went. And that is why one of the questions that I've been asked in the past is if you could only have one console or computer and you weren't allowed to play anything else, what would it be? You had the entire range of games as well. I would go for the Xbox 360 because you can play PC style games, you know, it plays arcade racing games perfectly, and there's also tons of sort of retro games. You've got all your Namco collections and your Capcoms and that kind of stuff. So yeah, the pound for pound, I think the Xbox 360 is the best console ever. It might not have the nostalgia that you get from other machines, but yeah, I think it's a fantastic machine. But anyway, Gary, thanks very much, buddy. And Mr. Kevin down the rabbit hole. Alan, I seek your advice. Given you caught COVID, but you also want to attend an event, you are in a good position to answer this for me. We have the Vancouver Retro Gaming Expo. I can't even pronounce that. Expo? Coming up in a few weeks, and I don't feel I want to attend due to the COVID risk. Am I being paranoid or wisely cautious? Would you say I should go? I don't really need to. I have plenty of games in my collection, but on the other hand, it might be fun and I might meet up with other Vancouver YouTubers, so I'm torn on that decision. You know what, Kev? I don't really think I'm in... Every single person has their own opinions, and this is my opinion. We've basically, the whole world has lost the best part of 2.5 years because of COVID. It was an absolutely horrendous thing. It really, really, really was. But when you get to a certain age, I mean, I'm 54. I don't know how long I've got. You know, hopefully I've got at least another 20 decent years in me. But, you know, we're not getting any younger. And time is passing by. And life is for living. I learned that a long time ago. Life is for living. It's about taking risks. It's about, you know, doing things. I don't mean being an arsehole. I'm talking about taking risks. Whether it's, I mean, I've started a martial art, for God's sake, at, you know, 54 years old. You know, life, we've got to resume life again. I mean, tonight I went swimming with my mate. It was great just being out. It's the first time I've been swimming since COVID. I completely understand why some people are still terrified to get COVID. I got it and I was as right as rain. And again, this is purely my opinion. I don't think that COVID is any worse than a cold or a flu. I did, because I was coughing and I had my cook soul coming up, and the guy that I work with said to me, "Oh, I think you better do a test." And I thought to myself, yeah, I'll do a test, thinking it's going to be negative because I've done, I don't know how many, I've probably done a couple hundred tests over the last few years, and lo and behold, it was positive. And because of that, I wasn't able. It was the Golden Jubilee or whatever the hell it's called, the Silver Jubilee, whatever the hell it was, I can't bloody remember. Platinum Jubilee, don't know. Thing. I was off on the Friday, so because I was testing positive, I was off work on the Thursday. I was on holiday on the Friday. I did nothing. I was on obviously the weekend, the Saturday, Sunday. I did absolutely nothing, and then I was off on the Monday. Now I was as right as rain, absolutely fine. Now if I had not done a test, I would have been. I didn't get to see my girlfriend, so I was pissed off at that. You know, I had quite a crap weekend, if I'm being totally honest with you. So yeah, if I hadn't done a test, I would have been out and about mingling with people. The thing is, the law now states that you don't have to do tests. Use common sense. Apply common sense. If you've got a stinking cold, it might be COVID, it might be the flu, you don't know. Would you go and mix with people? Probably not. Would you go to a barbecue with your family? No. So use exercise caution. I mean, I was out today up at the shops and there's still a few people wearing masks, and I completely respect that. It's up to individuals. I mean, if there's a likelihood that you're going to come into contact with an elderly person, somebody who is vulnerable, then I do understand why they're being extra vigilant and careful. But I can only speak from experience. I was as right as rain, and it's not for me to tell you, Kev, what you need to do. If it was me, I would 100% get along to your retro event and enjoy yourself, have a good time. If you don't go, why are you not going? If you do get COVID, you might be ill, you might be like me, you might be absolutely fine. Again, it's up to everybody to exercise their own, to do their own risk assessment. I can only speak from experience, and I would say 100%. Life has got to go on, Kevin. You know, we can't afford to be cutting ourselves any longer. I mean, I think the damage that has been caused through isolation we're never going to get that back. It's ruined a lot of people's lives. I mean, I know COVID was a horrible thing. You know, there was a lot of people died. It was quite a serious thing. But I think the fact that most of us have had double vaccines, we've had our boosters, you know, it doesn't stop you getting it. But no, you know, like I said, you've got to take risks. You can't live your life under being padded with cotton wool the whole time. You've got to live your life, Kev. So if it was down to me, mate, you feel fine, absolutely get along and enjoy yourself. If you feel slightly concerned, why not wear a mask? But definitely go, Kev. Let me know how you got on, buddy. And Mr. GTB Films, Big Al, Scottish Arcades, Burnt Island and Portobello for us East Coasters, but you forgot Largs on the West. I used to hope we missed the Rossi ferry every October holiday because that meant a 2-hour wait for the next one and possibly a trip to Largs to use up my time if my dad was feeling generous. I don't remember their machines, but I do remember they had a sitting Dalek. I don't remember the Dalek. I can categorically say I've never been to Largs. It's funny, when I was growing up, Glasgow was a place. We were more likely to visit London than we were to go to Glasgow. Glasgow was like 50 miles away, and my family, we didn't have any reason to go to Glasgow. All my family are from Edinburgh, apart from one, my dad's auntie, cousin I should say, she lived in Glasgow, above Parkhead, Celtic football ground. But we never went to Glasgow, so places on the west coast were completely foreign to us. It would be as well going to Mallorca than going to Largs. We just never ever did it. So, right, and to finish off, we've actually got 3 for Mad Commodore, so listen, thanks for taking the time to ask me questions. Question: I've played 10 plus hours of Amstrad CPC games via tape images and cassette adapter, and I personally think that either Ikari Warriors or Golden Axe were the equivalent of Space Invaders for the Atari VCS. Better than expected and better than rival hardware offerings. What for you was the best Amstrad CPC games top 3? Now, I've not got really any nostalgia for the Amstrad. I mean, you had the Atari kind of disappeared quite early on. You had the Commodore 64, you had the Spectrum, and you had the Amstrad. Now, one mate had a Spectrum. He was kind of my best mate. He had the Spectrum, so I was very, very familiar with a lot of Spectrum games, and the rest of us had Commodore 64s. So I never really got at the computer club. There was no Amstrads because there were no Amstrads at all. The only mate that had an Amstrad, he had it for a really short space of time, and I'm sure he had the green screen as well. And what did he have? He had Steve Davis Snooker, which is actually really good, and he also had a Blagger, which I think is actually my favourite version of Blagger. I love the sound of the Amstrad version, really good, kind of plinky plonky. So I can't really say, oh, these are my favourite Amstrad games, because I've never really played them, but games that I know do get really highly rated on the Amstrad. Chase HQ, yeah, people always talk about the Spectrum as being the definitive version, but I think the Amstrad one is probably just as good. It's got a fantastic frame rate, it's got the undulations of the road, the graphics are great, it moves along at a fair lick. Really good game. The other one that's really popular is Renegade. The graphics in Renegade and Amstrad are second to none. I mean, I think the Amstrad has got a massive colour palette, so if it wasn't for lazy programmers, you could have the Amstrad could technically have the best graphics of any of the 8-bit systems. Unfortunately, a lot of Amstrad games, I think they both have the Z80, so Amstrad tends to get ports of the Spectrum one, and usually they're not that good. They're usually really wee screens. What other games? Is it Midnight Resistance or is it Contra? I think they're kind of both the one and the same. I think Midnight Resistance was like the British version of Contra. That is meant to be really good in Amstrad. And the other game that I remember fondly on Amstrad, I think I used to see it getting played, was Sorcery. It's got nice graphics. I think it was by Virgin Software. But yeah, like I said, I've not really got any games. I can't see a top 3 because I don't have any nostalgia for them at all. But I did like Steve Davis Snooker. I actually need to do a video on that one. So anyway, listen, Mad Commodore, thank you very much. And the next question is from Mad Commodore. My question for next time: you had a Commodore 64 early on like me, start of spring 1984. I can't remember. I was actually talking to Delboy last week. I can't remember. I had one in 1983. I'm sure I had one in 1983. I'm sure, yeah, because I started working. Oh, wait a minute. I started working in 1983 because I just turned 16. So, no, it must have been. I'm trying to think. I started working in Woolco when I started when I was 15. I started in September 83, sorry. So I might have actually bought a Commodore 64 just at the very end of 1983. Can't remember exactly. You had a C64 early on like me, start of spring 1984. So what would you consider as the 1 to 2 year golden age of C64 gaming? For me, it's going to be somewhere between 84 and 86. I would probably have to agree with you, actually, Mad Commodore. Yeah, for me, the games that I love, and they're not, they're nowhere near the technically best games. I mean, technically, you would say, and this isn't games that I like, but you would say Uridium, Whizball, Mayhem, and Monsterland. All these games, technically, they're outstanding, absolutely outstanding. But the games for me that I've got the real nostalgia are all the early Epix games, the Summer Games 2, Wave Exploding Fist, Bruce Lee, Fort Apocalypse, Drelbs, Blue Max, Tapper, not Space Harrier, Spy Hunter, all these games, these are the very early games, so they came out kind of 83, 84. I would probably say, I'm going to say 83 to 85 if it's a 2-year gap. I'd probably go as far as 86, but if I'm stuck to 2 years, I would say 83 to 86. That's when all my favourite games came out, your Drop Zones, and I've completely forgotten what other games there were, but yeah, I would probably say 83 to 85. Great stuff. Right, Mr. Jones, waffle question. What's the earliest holiday trip you remember? Now, I can't remember exactly what year it would be, and I have mentioned this before, like most of my waffles, excuse me, the earliest memories I have of holidays. Now, I had 2 sisters, I've still got 2 sisters, fortunately. They're a bit older than me. So it was my 2 sisters, me, my mum and dad. And for virtually as long as I can remember, up until probably, I don't know, when I was about 15, we used to go camping. Probably because it was cheap. My dad had a trailer, which he used to keep in the garage, and he used to put the tent into the trailer, and every year we always went down to a place called Roydon, which is in Essex. Now, if you look at Google Maps, Roydon is not exactly on the doorstep of Edinburgh or Livingston. It's miles away. Now, you need to remember the cars that my dad was driving back then. What would it be? The Ford Cambridge. He had a Ford Zephyr, which was like a big American style car, beautiful car. The Vauxhall Cavalier, Vauxhall Viva. Yeah, some classic cars. And yeah, my memories, I can't remember what it'd be, it'd probably be maybe 5 or 6. My memories of going on holiday, we would go to bed early, because then we would get up at midnight, and as a kid, getting up at midnight was super exciting. It was dark, normally you'd be going to your bed, you'd be going to sleep, you were waking up, you're getting woken up, and it was dark, and it's like, oh, come on Alan, come on, get ready. And you'd get ready, you'd get into your clothes, and then we would drive down to a place called Scotch Corner, and we would stop at the side of the road. Remember, this was the 70s, so there was a fraction of the traffic on the roads. We would be sitting at the side of the road, my mum would make sandwiches. They were always plain sandwiches, like, cheese sandwiches, maybe egg, and then a packet of digestive biscuits or rich tea. That was our biscuit of choice. Never got chocolate biscuits. So yeah, and you would have like a flask. I can always remember the tartan flasks. Sitting at the side of the road, excuse me, you would have your sandwich and you would have your thing, mate. And my mum had this little tin that she used to put sweets in. There were, what would it be, barley sugar. If we're lucky, you'd get like fruit kind of boiled sweets. And then butterscotch, and then butterscotch were the most disgusting sweets ever. They were horrible things. I'd love to try one now just to see if they're still horrible. So we'd get sweets, and again, we as kids, we got very, very few sweets, so it was exciting, getting up at midnight, getting sweets to eat, driving down. And then you says we would get down there, and as you always think, and back when you're a kid, the weather was always fantastic. We would put the tent up. It had like an inner tent for where we had the sleeping bags, and yeah, it was just great. We would go into London. My mum, and that was another exciting part. I always remember my mum giving this little purse. It was a little I think it was part of a bag, and she cut it out and it had a wee zip. And she used to give me money. My granny and granda used to give me money, and I would maybe have, I don't know, I'd be lucky if I had like £1, and that was my spending money over the summer holiday. Over this holiday, we'd go for, I don't know how long we went for, 2 weeks maybe. And of course, being a kid, the first shop you went into, you wanted to spend your money, you wanted to spend it all, and my mum and dad would tell me, no, you're not getting it. And as a kid, I couldn't understand, why are they stopping me spending my money? I want this thing, and they won't let me buy it. But being a parent now, I understand why that is, because at the end of the day, your kids are spending their money as soon as they get there, and then they're going to have bugger all for the rest of the holiday. So yeah, that memories of that, getting underground train in London, just wonderful times. Awesome. Yeah, that's probably the earliest kind of holidays that I can remember, Colin, but they were great. LFC Gamer and Vlogs, if money was no object, what would be your dream car? I've got to be honest, I'm not a car person. I mean, I need a car, but I don't get excited with cars at all. I mean, I've got a nice company car, but you know what? It wouldn't be my choice of car. It's expensive to run. I would rather have a cheap car that's cheap to run, because it still gets you to A to B. But okay, there's not any. I've always had a hankering for a little sports car, like a wee MG midget. You know, like the burnt orange kind of soft top. I would love one of them. I always wanted one. I was going to buy one maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and one of my mates, I think it was Kenny actually, Axeman 3D, he does watch the channel. I think he kind of persuaded me against it. He says they're expensive to run, you'll have to get parts are expensive. So I ended up not buying one. I might do at some point, I don't know. So yeah, I think an MG midget, like I says, I'm not real interested in fancy cars. But the car I always wanted as a kid, and just because I had a remote control one, was the Lamborghini Countach, I think it was. Bright red. Yeah, that was always my dream car. So thank you very much, LFC. And finally, one more from Mr. Mad Commodore. My question though is a simple one. What thing would you sell, trade all your retro stuff in exchange for? You can't keep a single thing, not even a tabletop electronic game. It must be a job lot sale of everything. Mine is simple. I saw it parked outside my house yesterday. A 1988-1991 BMW 32i Sport in mint condition. Now this is a caveat. I would buy this if I didn't have to go to work, and you'll see where I'm coming from in a minute. If I didn't have to work, I would buy quite a nice camper van, and I would just drive. I would just sell everything. I wouldn't have a computer or anything at all, and I would just drive. I'd go up to the West Highland Way. I would just spend my life driving from A to B, hill walking, things like that. Yeah, camper van, that would be nice. If it was something that I still had to work, what would it be? I don't know. I think if it was possible, and I know it is possible, but if it was possible to have a stand-up arcade machine, I should say, that had every single system on it. Although with that, you're saying sell your retro stuff. Yeah, if I could get rid of everything and have a stand-up arcade machine that allowed me to play arcade games, Commodore 64, Spectrum, ZX81, Mega Drive, a single system that allowed me to play all that. Now you're probably saying RetroPie, but you know, it doesn't really play arcade games that well. But if somebody could come up with a fantastic arcade cabinet with twin sticks, loads of buttons at the right height, and it had the ability to play all these, Absolutely. I mean, it's going to get to a point. I'm not kidding myself. I think it will get to a point. I don't know when it's going to be. I mean, I've pretty much stopped buying stuff. I will buy the occasional new thing. There's nothing really on my radar at the moment that I want. I might pick up a mini Amiga at some point because I've heard lots of good things about it. But there's really nothing that I'm looking to buy. Massive thanks to Andy for putting composite mods onto a lot of my systems, so it means that I can now play the 2600. I can play the 7800. I can play my Atari 400. I just need to get them back from you, Andy. I will be in touch. So yeah, anyway, listen, another great question, Mad Commodore. So listen, I've been waffling long enough. Thanks to everybody for the questions over the last few weeks. Please keep them coming. I absolutely mean that. I need questions, and like I said, it doesn't even have to be a specific question. It can just be a topic. What's your thoughts on blah? It doesn't even have to be gaming, whatever, you know. So anyway, listen, I will hopefully be along as long as I survive and I don't get eaten alive with midges. I will be along on Sunday night, probably 7 till 8. I think, let me just have a quick look. I think we've got enough games just for one more. Come on, this is taking forever to open. There we go. Yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, part 9 or something. The final instalment of the Commodore 64 100 games or 114 games, that will be coming along on Sunday, 7 o'clock till 9. Yeah, listen guys, thanks as always to all the support, all my new subscribers, all my long term watchers, whether you watch, if you never comment, drop me a comment, you know, it's always nice to see who's in the stream. So anyway guys, listen, I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic weekend, and I will catch you later. As always guys, thank you very much for watching.